Welcome to the Camtasia tutorials. In this video, I'll walk you through the basics of recording your screen, then editing and sharing your video. Let's get started. Right now, you're in the Camtasia editor. The editor is made up of the timeline, where you can arrange and edit your clips, the Tools panel, where your media is stored, along with shapes, animations, effects, and more, the Canvas, where you position, resize, and preview your media, and the Properties panel, where you fine-tune your media and effects. To start a recording, click the Record button at the top of the Tools panel. This hides the editor and opens the Camtasia recorder. By default, the recorder is set to capture everything that happens on your screen. To customize the capture settings, choose the Custom button to change the recording area, the Camera button to enable webcam recording, and the Audio button to enable audio recording. Click the arrows next to each to customize their settings. If you're on a Mac, the recorder looks a little different. Use the toggle buttons to enable or disable screen recording, webcam, microphone, and the system audio. System audio is the sound that comes from your computer. Click the arrows next to each to customize their settings. When you're ready, click Record, and Camtasia will count down until the recording begins. Hi everyone, this is a quick tutorial on how to use Google Drive to upload a file and copy the link and send it to anyone that needs the file. Thanks for watching. When you're finished recording, click the Camtasia recorder icon, then the Stop button. And if you're not happy with your recording, choose Delete to try again. If you're on a Mac, click the Camtasia icon in the Apple menu bar, then click Stop Recording. The capture automatically appears in the media bin, on the canvas, and on the timeline, where the top track is audio captured from your microphone, and the bottom track is screen video and system audio. To preview the recording, click the play button or press the space bar. To jump to a point in the video, click on the timeline, or click and drag the playhead to scrub through the video. If there's a mistake in the recording, drag a handle on the playhead to select it, and click Cut to remove it. A stitched line appears to show where the media was removed. If you cut too much or too little, click Undo to try again. If you make a selection and want to bring the playhead back together, double-click the playhead. To remove extra footage from a recording, click and drag the end of a clip in. This is called trimming, and if you trim too much, simply drag the clip back to restore your video. To fine-tune your editing, use the zoom slider to zoom in on the timeline. If you zoom too much or want to see your full project, click the magnifying glass to fit your entire project to the timeline. To add additional media, titles, or effects, drag them from the Tools panel to the timeline. And to move media on the timeline, click and drag. If you choose an effect, such as an animation or transition, clips on the timeline highlight, showing you where they can be applied. When working on your project, use the canvas to position and resize your media, and the Properties panel to fine-tune your media and effects. When you're satisfied with your video, export it as a file on your computer, share it to popular web destinations, or upload it to Video Review and invite your colleagues to review the video. And when you're done working, don't forget to save your project. Well, that's all for now. we'll walk through the basics of editing video in Camtasia. In Camtasia, videos are created on the timeline, moving sequentially from left to right. This is where you arrange and edit your screen recordings, audio clips, titles, and more. The timeline is organized into layers, which we call tracks, where media on the top layers cover the ones below. In this example, there's a title on the top track and a screen recording on a track below, which means the title appears on top of the screen recording. If the title is moved to the bottom track, it is now under the screen recording and won't appear in the final video. As you build your project, the canvas is where you preview your work. As the playhead moves along the timeline, everything at that point is displayed on the canvas. So if you change the position or duration of a clip, those changes are reflected on the canvas. The canvas is also a working area where you position, resize, and rotate content. To get a better look at your work, use the Zoom drop-down to zoom in on the canvas, and Pan mode to move the canvas without making changes to your project. It's good to note that everything that's shown on the canvas is produced in the final video. As you work through a project, there are a few basic editing techniques that are good to know. First, to remove a mistake or unwanted section of a recording, drag a handle on the playhead to make a selection, and click Cut. This removes the selection and moves all media to the left to fill the space. If instead you want to replace a mistake with a new recording, make a selection, then press the Delete key. This removes the selected media and leaves space on the timeline for a new recording. Sometimes you need to add media to the timeline, but there's no room. To create space on the timeline, move the playhead, select the clips, and then press the S key on Windows or Command T on Mac. This splits the clips into two parts, which you can move to create space. To remove extra footage or fine-tune media, click and drag the end of a clip in. This is called trimming, and if you trim too much, simply drag the clip back to restore your video. As you work with the timeline, use copy and paste to speed up your workflow. For example, if you create a callout or arrow you like, copy it, move the playhead, then paste to quickly reuse it throughout the project. And if you make a mistake while editing, use the undo and redo buttons to try again. Lastly, to fine-tune your editing, use the zoom slider to zoom in on the timeline. If you zoom too much or want to see your project in full, click the magnifying glass to fit your entire project to the timeline. Well, that's the basics of video editing in Camtasia. In this tutorial, we'll focus on two key areas of the Camtasia editor: the canvas and the properties panel. Let's start with the canvas. The canvas is where you design your video. This is where you position, resize, and rotate media. This is also where you adjust the look and feel of callouts and change their text. As you work with the canvas, use the snap lines to help you align content to the canvas or to other media. And to get a better look at your work, use the zoom drop-down to zoom in and see more detail, and pan mode to move the canvas without making changes to your project. When finished, switch back to edit mode, then zoom out to see the canvas in full. As you build your project, keep in mind that everything visible on the canvas is produced in the final video. If parts of a recording or other media pass over the edge of the canvas, Camtasia grays them out to indicate they won't appear in the final video. Sometimes, this is exactly what you're looking for. For example, drag a handle on a screen recording to make it bigger, then position the recording to show only what you want. When you produce your video, all the content outside of the canvas's gray border won't be visible in the final video. When working with the canvas, if you make a recording or add media that doesn't fill the canvas, black bars will appear in the final video. One way to fix this is to increase the size of the screen recording to fill the entire canvas. Then, position the recording to show the most important part. As you build your project, add annotations, callouts, and other media by clicking and dragging directly to the canvas. And to modify text, double-click an annotation and type on your keyboard. To adjust the style or fine-tune media on the canvas, use the Properties panel. This panel displays the properties for the selected media and organizes them into tabs. The first tab is an object's visual properties. This includes an object's scale, opacity, rotation, and position on the canvas. The following tabs change depending on the type of media selected. In this example, an annotation is selected, so the second tab displays the annotation's text properties, where you change the font type, size, color, and more. The third tab displays options for the style of the annotation, such as its fill color and outline properties. If a screen recording is selected, the Visual tab is still displayed, along with two new tabs. The first is the Audio tab, where you control the loudness of a clip, which is also called Gain. The second is the Cursor tab, where you control the size and opacity of the cursor. Well, that's all for In this tutorial, I'll focus on the basics of editing audio in Camtasia. In Camtasia, audio is edited on the timeline the same way you edit video clips. Click and drag to position clips, select mistakes with the playhead, then cut them out, split clips, then click and drag to create space on the timeline, trim, untrim, and even add effects. Displayed across each audio track is a waveform. This is a visual representation of the recorded audio that makes it easy to see changes in volume. For example, in this project, I have audio recorded from my microphone on the top track. By looking at the waveforms, I can see I start speaking here, while this part of my narration is almost silent. To get a better look at the waveform, expand the track up. To adjust the volume of a clip, select it, then drag the audio line up or down. It's important to note each clip on the timeline has its own audio line, which is adjusted separately. To adjust the volume for only part of a clip, use audio points. To add audio points, double-click the audio line, then click and drag to change the volume. Camtasia adjusts the volume from one point to the next. Let's walk through an example. On the bottom track of this project is an audio clip I want to use as background music. I'd like the music to be loud at the beginning of the video and soft during the narration. To do this, zoom in on the timeline to see more detail, then add an audio point a second or two before the narration begins, and another a second or two into the narration. Then click and drag to adjust the volume. Let's see how that sounds. Hi everyone, this is a quick tutorial on how to use Google Drive to upload a file and share it with a colleague. Nice! Another way to adjust the audio of a clip is to use the built-in audio effects. For example, drag the fade-out effect to the music clip on the timeline. This adds audio points to the end of the clip that fade out the music. As you work with audio, sometimes it's best to focus on one track at a time. Click this icon to temporarily disable or re-enable a track. In this project, we've looked at the voice narration and music, but it's important to note there's a third audio track. Combined together with the screen video is a recording of the system audio. These are the sounds that come from your computer, such as alerts, music, and more. To edit the system audio, I recommend you right-click the clip and select Separate Audio and Video. This makes the system audio its own clip on the timeline. Lastly, as you add audio to a project, Camtasia automatically adjusts the loudness to an industry standard level. This means all audio clips in a project start at the same loudness before editing. Welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll focus on how to export a project as a video file on your computer. Let's get started. To export a project, click the Share button. Here you'll find all of the export options available in Camtasia. The first option exports the project as a video file on your computer. The following options export to web services, which require you to sign into an account. We recommend Screencast for quick and free video sharing, and Video Review, where you upload videos, then invite colleagues or friends to review them. Let's choose Local File to export as an MP4. On Windows, the production wizard opens, with settings already optimized for the project. To get started, click Next. Leave the MP4 option selected, and click Next again. This screen displays the export settings for the video and organizes them into tabs. Don't worry, you don't need to know all of the options, and I'll walk through a couple of the most important. First, I recommend you uncheck this box. This option exports the video with our TechSmith Smart Player, which is only needed if your project contains quizzes, interactive hotspots, or a table of contents. Next, switch to the Video Settings tab and adjust the slider to increase or decrease the quality of the exported video. Keep in mind that higher quality video means a larger file size. Click Next, read through the options on this page, and decide if any apply. Then click Next again. Here is where you modify the video's name and choose where to save the video. When ready, click Finish, and Camtasia exports the video as an MP4. Upon completion, Camtasia opens the video and plays it.
Hi everyone, this is a quick tutorial on how to use Google.
As a final step, when finished with a project, I highly recommend you export it as a zip file. This zips all of the media used in the project into one file, which means the next time you use the project, you have all of the original media. Inside the zip file is the Camtasia project file, the screen recordings, and any other media used in the project. To use a zipped project, choose Import Zipped Project. If you're on a Mac, the production wizard looks a little different. By default, the Export to MP4 option is selected, with export settings already optimized for your project. To customize the export settings, click the Options button. Then, modify the name, choose where to save the video, then click Export. Camtasia exports the video as an MP4. Click Reveal in Finder to open the folder where the video is saved. It's important to note that in Camtasia for Mac, all media files are contained within the project file, so there's no need to export the project as a zip file. Thanks for watching.